You might be one of the unfortunate souls that's a little bit like me, and on your spare time, you read up on things rather than watching some of the shit reality TV that's on TV nowadays. And you want to feed your brain, and invariably, if you're an audio guy, and especially a Bitwig audio guy, you will stumble upon Jack, and then you'll read up on Jack, and everyone in the world's like, oh, it's so good, right? Like, oh, you just have to use Jack. And yeah, I know. I want to use Jack, and at first I couldn't because I was on Yosemite, and it didn't work. And then I upgraded to Sierra, and the Jack download was removed when I went here. Tried to get the Jack 2 binary. Like, can't you just call it download? I guess not. And then source tarball. Like, someone explain what a source tarball is. You know, a tarball. I don't know. Anyway, so now it worked. I downloaded it, I installed it, and I started getting into it. And then it's like, well, okay, how do I use this thing? And so, you know, you go to the walkthrough, and then you see lines of code, and it's like, what's happening here? What is happening? Am I the only numbskull numpty moron in the world that doesn't want to do this to connect Bitwig to Ableton or Logic? Right? Is everyone else in the world pointing their finger right now going, he doesn't even speak Java or C++. What an idiot, right? Well, like, I don't want to. I speak enough language. I speak English and a little bit of Dutch. And that's all I want. That's all I want to speak. I don't want to speak -J Jack name : right? Anyway, well, you don't have to, as it turns out. There's a much simpler way to use Jack, and it turns out Jack's pretty dope, and you should use it too. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. And it's not so bad. It's not so intimidating. It's pretty easy. You do not have to type in any code, because otherwise I would not be making this tutorial. And I hope you get something out of this. Okay, let's just start the damn show. Okay, so you've gone to Jack, you've downloaded it appropriately for your operating system. You know, you probably didn't use a source tarball, but whatever, you know. Okay, go back to that later. So now you've installed it, you've restarted your computer, and you were given these two things, Jack Pilot and Q Jack Control. Okay, the first thing you'll do, click Jack Pilot and just hit start. And you just wait a couple seconds here. All right. Actually, sorry. Turn it off. Don't start it. That was dumb. Go into your preferences. Now here's the preferences, and you're basically you're gonna choose the settings that are appropriate to you. Okay. If you, like, I have an interface plugged in, but I'm talking in it currently, so I'm just gonna leave it as built-in microphone and built-in output. But if you have an interface, you would select it here, and all is right and well in the world. I would say activate Midi. Click that sucker, turn it on. This is where you're telling how many inputs are on your interface. So if I was to use my Scarlett 2i2, I have 2 inputs on that, and so I would leave that as 2 and 2. And then you can create however many virtual inputs and outputs as you want. I don't think there's a maximum. Let's try it. 99. Let's do 99. I mean, if you use 99, that's amazing. Oh my God, you can make 99 virtual. That's just too much to handle. Let's just leave it at 8. 8 is good, I think, for me right now. You might do 16 or 32. And that's basically it. Just set this up. Clock drift compensation is if you're not going to match your sample rates. So this is set at 44.1, which is very easy for the computer to manage. And then if your DAWs are all set at 44.1 and your interface is set at 44.1, then you don't need clock drift compensation. This is really just if you're going to have a difference inside that. Okay, so you've activated Midi, you've set up your interface, and everything looks good. If you don't have an interface, your screen looks exactly like this. Okay, so click save, everything's good there, and just hit start. And now Jack's server is starting, right? Okay, So now that you've got Jack server up and running, it's basically like you just booted the program. But still nothing is happening inside of Jack Pilot. What you have to do is go to sound preferences, okay? And you can get here a couple of ways. So first of all, you're gonna click Jack Router and Jack Router. So that means your computer's input and output are going through Jack Router. If you need to find it again, you can press this and just type in sound, enter. Okay, and there's the same thing. Again, click out Jack Router, make sure that's set as your input and output, and you're good to go, essentially. So now that Jack Pilot is running, you've got your preferences set, and your computer is now, your inputs and outputs are now running through Jack Pilot as your manager for inputs and outputs. We're gonna start the programs that you're gonna use on Jack Audio. Okay, so let's start Bitwig, because that's really what this is all about. And we'll just open up Bitwig and have a look and see what happens inside. Once, take your time. No, it's fine, Bitwig. Okay, there we go. We'll open up this project. Yeah. There we go. Come on now. There we are. So, Command comma and go to your settings, or you just click this little button there and go to audio, and you're going to change this over to Jack, okay? And it's weird. If you leave this on core audio and then you go to Jack Router, watch what happens. This is the most bizarre thing ever. Okay, so I'm on core audio, Jack Router for my input and output devices. So note how my tempo is 120 BPM. Yeah, doesn't quite sound like 120, does it? No, it's not. It's just, I don't know what's happening there, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on, because usually on a Mac anyway, you're very used to using the core audio driver, because it's a strong driver. You don't usually change out of that. And then so I started going around and making sure all these were set the same, and they were. And then I was just getting frustrated. The world was crumbling beneath my feet. I could hear fighting happening outside. The world was getting hotter. I was starting to sweat, and the blood veins on my forehead were starting to pop out. And I was like, why? But then I just realized, oh yeah, you just have to click Jack, and then everything was fine. And that was it. Okay. And so remember how you clicked the enable Midi thing inside the Jack control preferences? Well, that allows us to use Jack allows us to use Jack as a control for the transport of Bitwig. And transport meaning play, stop, record, rewind, fast forward, stuff like that. Okay. And then right here, we're saying that Bitwig is the master of that. So if we have other Jack enabled programs, and when we hit play inside of Bitwig, it will hit play inside of whatever other program we're running in. I know Ableton, for whatever reason, doesn't like it, but it's because they hate each other, and that's fine with me. Okay, so now that we've selected Jack, and I'm just going to leave that enabled for now because it's pretty handy, and I'll show you what it can do after. We're going to set up our input buses. So notice we have system/capture 1, right? And 2. And we have system, So that's just coming from the Jack audio thing, and we'll explain that. I named this Ableton because I'm going to send it to Ableton, and so to make it easy, we just leave it as Ableton. This will make sense in a few minutes, okay? Just stick with me here. Okay, so now let's open up Ableton. Doo-ba-doo-doo. All right. Okay, so command comma, and we're gonna set it to Jack Router. Notice how you can't select Jack? Yeah, Ableton doesn't like fun things like Jack, so it just stays on core audio, and we just have to deal with that. Okay, input configuration. Remember how I selected 8 virtual inputs? Well, here's all 8 of them right here. See that? And so we can even enable all of them if you want, if that's your flavor. That's cool. So that's good enough. All right. So basically what we've done is we've started up Jack Pilot. I'm going to put this on its own screen. I'm going to make another screen. And over here, let's bring up Ableton. No, on your own screen, Ableton. There we go. So here we have Bitwig. in between them, we have Jack Pilot, and then there we have Ableton. Okay, so we've started Jack Pilot. We've done our settings. You only have to do that once. You pressed start. You've made sure that your computer's input and output and your sound preferences is set to Jack Router, and now you're running. We've opened both programs, Bitwig and Ableton. We've gone into their settings. We've selected Jack in all the ways that we can, and basically that's it. That's all you need to worry about at this point. So now that that's running, you know, that's doing great. Go ahead and minimize that. You're not going to need it for a little while. Open up Jack Control. Okay, Q Jack Control. And you can see it's already running. It's being used because we started it in Jack Pilot. And if we want to check out what's connected to what, you can simply hit connect, and then there you can see in the most layman's terms, it's just there's a line drawn to whatever this is connected to. I'm going to disconnect everything here. Okay, so these on the left are all of the programs that make audio. It could be anything. It could be iTunes. It could be like Spotify, whatever you have. It could be Bitwig, Ableton, anything that can make audio on your system, including this system, because remember, I have a microphone on my laptop, and so it's going to show up there too. Okay, and on the right is everything that can record audio or transmit audio. So that's going to be, you know, any DAW that you have open. If I open Logic, Reason, Pro Tools, they're all going to show up here as well, and here. Okay, so now you're gonna choose what you want to connect to what. And so I'm going to set up a scenario where I play this song in Bitwig and I record it inside of Ableton. Okay, and so that's pretty simple to do. All I have to do is click Bitwig, click Ableton, and connect them. But that's not enough, because nothing is going to my system, because ultimately my system is going to play back that audio. So now I have to connect Ableton to my system and click connect. So what's happened here is I'm using Bitwig to play audio. It's connecting to Ableton. Ableton is receiving that audio, and now it's connecting to the system. Does that make any sense? Okay, so now I'm just going to go to Bitwig, and I'm going to set it up so that it outputs audio over to Ableton. So Command comma, or click on the little Bitwig sign, go to your audio settings, and here we go. We have to give an output bus. All right, so I'm going to add a stereo, and let's see here. I'm going to choose Ableton Live. I'm going to choose input 3 for the left speaker and input 4 for the right speaker. And I'm going to call it, just to not get confused, Ableton. Okay, there we go. Now you could add another stereo and then leave it as system playback, and then it'll play through your computer speakers, but I don't want that. I want Bitwig to play its master through Ableton and only Ableton, and there you have it. Okay, did you follow that? Say I had Logic or Reason here. Okay, so I could have a stereo output. I could call it Reason, right? And then when I click down on this, you would see Reason just the way you see it live for Ableton Live. And then inside there, you would have you'd have 8 virtual inputs, and you would just select, say, 6 and 7, and then you'd be good to go. But we don't have Reason open, we have Ableton open, and so that's fine. So now on my master, we can click down and click Ableton. All right, and because we just set it up, we know that Ableton is getting outputted on channels 3 and 4 of the virtual buses that we created in the preferences of this thing. Okay, so now we open up Ableton. We have an audio track here that we're going to have a look at, and we're going to say we want the inputs from channels 3 and 4, because now that's where Bitwig's coming from. Okay, so now we can simply press play on Bitwig, right? And well, it's playing. You know, you can see it in the master, but you don't hear it. Why don't you hear it? Because it's just going to Ableton, and Ableton isn't enabled, right? So if we press this, right, you can hear it now, because now Ableton is the step in between Bitwig and your ability to listen to it. So now if I want to record whatever is happening inside of Bitwig, well, that's simple. I'm already recording. Okay, let's go over here, and there you have it. Okay, well, let's do something funky here, because why do anything unless it's going to be funky? Let's record Bitwig inside of Ableton. I'm going to put this on auto, and I'm just going to start it. Okay, Ableton's recording. Let's go over to Bitwig and do something like this. I don't really know what this is going to sound like, but heck. All right. Okay, let's see. Now if we play this back. Weird. Pretty cool, right? Actually, I kind of like how that turned out. All right, so that's one scenario where we're playing back inside of Bitwig and recording inside of Ableton. There's one other cool feature that you should be aware of, and that is, remember how in Bitwig, when you're in the settings, you can select Act as Transport Sync Master. Well, this is what it's referring to. If I go back here and I have this, really, let's put this on top of Ableton for a sec, okay? And then let's go into Ableton. I can turn Bitwig on by using this, because this is the new transport that's synced up with Bitwig. Check it out. Pretty cool, right? I can go back. Right. And that works because I was able to, oh, I just exited it. I was able to select jack instead of core audio. And because I have this selected, and because we selected add Midi or whatever inside the preferences of jack, inside the jack pilot. Remember when we went to preferences here and enable Midi was one of the things that we could checkbox. Well, because we did that, we can use this as our transport control. Okay, and you can't do that with Ableton, because if you go into the settings, it's on core audio. If I could choose jack, then I would be able to do it, but Ableton doesn't like things like that, so you can't do it, which is terribly unfortunate. Hopefully one of the two companies will figure their shit out and we'll be able to do that. Okay, so let's set up another situation. Okay, so maybe we want to record Bitwig inside of I don't know, Logic. Let's find Logic. Open it up. Let's just do something new here. Yes, close it. Don't save it. Don't ask so many questions. How about that? Okay, audio. And there we go. Look, check it out. Already, there's the 8 virtual inputs that we created inside of Jack Audio. And I'm going to choose input 7 and 8. Okay, how about that? And we'll choose outputs 1 and 2. Okay, perfect. Let's create that. All right, so let's go back over to Jack Pilot and make sure our routing is set up properly. So, oh, no, not this one. I'm going to click connect, and then there we are back inside. So I'm just going to disconnect everything. Yup. All right, now I want, what is this? Okay, that's news to me. All right, I want to connect Bitwig Studio to Logic Pro X, so I just highlight the two of them, connect it, and I want to connect Logic Pro X to my system, and I connect it. So that's pretty simple, okay? Now we go back over to Bitwig. Here we are inside the thing, and we'll exit that. We'll add a stereo, system playback, Logic Pro X. What was it? 7 and 8, right? So choose input 7 for the left and input 8 for the right, and we'll call it Logic. There we go. All right, so that's set up. And now if I click on my master, click output, it's already set to Logic, which means that it's outputting 7 and 8. That means the left channel's on 7, the right channel's on 8. Okay, and in Logic, we already know that it's receiving from 7 and 8 because we just set it up that way. See, we could do input 7 and 8. Perfect. Okay, so if I enable record here, actually, I don't even need to. I'm put an input monitoring, and where's our little buddy? Cue jack control. Let's put this on top of here. So now what should happen, and I hope it does, is that we will hear, when I press play, it'll turn Bitwig on and we'll hear it inside of Logic. Yeah. Great. So if I turn off input monitoring, you can't hear it, but you can see by the levels that it is in fact working. So let's hit record. And there it is. Exactly the same as in Ableton. Pretty awesome. Now we can go back and listen to it. Right. So that's pretty great, isn't it? Let's open up Cue Jack Control. We'll just stop Bitwig now. Okay. So again, if I could choose, let's go to the preferences. If I could have chosen instead of core audio, wait, can I disable core audio? Whoa. Interesting. Well, anyway, if I could choose jack instead of core audio, then I would be able to use the transport thing here and trigger Logic the same way that I can trigger Bitwig. And so what that would mean then is that this transport counter and this one would always be at the same spot. They'd be at the same tempo, the same time signature, in the same position, which is super handy because then when I'm recording in here, it records it in time perfectly. Okay, I'm gonna work on, now that I just saw that little button, I'm gonna work on how to do that, and we'll see if we can get Logic to like jack audio a little bit. But you know, Logic is Apple, and Apple is a stickler for things, so we'll see what happens with that. Okay, all right, I hope that kind of helped you out using jack audio. It's a pretty interesting little program, and it does not tax your computer really at all, and it gives you the flexibility of connecting anything to anything, right? Go in here, you can connect anything to anything on your computer. Anything that makes sound and anything that records sound, you can connect them, and you can give yourself a great deal of flexibility, and you can very easily get deep into this, where, you know, if I did go and create 99 new tracks, then that would be insane, but we would be able to do it. And so you can tell right off the bat all the different routing possibilities that you can get out of using jack audio. Okay, I should also mention, if you want to read up on this, I found a good guide on everything to do with jack here. So if you're looking to just curl up with an invigoratingly good book, you know, you're gonna sit by the fire and swirl a glass of brandy, and you need something to read, then this is something that you should check out. I'll put the link down in the description below, but it basically just gives you a step-by-step guide on using jack. It's pretty detailed, gives you some pretty neat information, and I learned a lot from it. I think you will too. You can, you know, if there was something that you couldn't extract from my video, you might be able to get it here. Okay, so I'll put this link down into the description so that you don't have to memorize libremusicproduction.com/articles/dismissifying jack and all that crap. Okay, you can just click on the link and it'll be down there for you to read on a nice evening where there might be a thunderstorm and everything is quiet in the house. Okay, all right, check that out. I'll probably make a follow-up video once I discover more about jack audio and the stuff that you can do and some good situations that you might find yourself in, and so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, if you have any questions, definitely dump them down below in the comments section. I hope you subscribe, but you probably already did, and so thank you for that. And if you have suggestions for future videos, I'd love to hear them. And again, I'll remind you that I'm taking your projects now. You can send me your projects, and they could be made in Ableton or Pro Tools or Reason or Logic or whatever else you got. Cubase, doesn't really matter. And I will take them, put them into Bitwig, and I'll mess around with them in my own way. It could be just a bass line, a drum sample, a full track. Doesn't really matter to me. Okay? All right, guys, be good to each other. Have a good weekend. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.